I am just very much happy with poetry reading and sharing my view and opinion about the poetry. I can say that I am happy to just make everything what I feel here at this juncture. I can say that it is very nice to read and share the feeling of poetry reading with students. You two are just very much enjoying listening to description of poetry and at the same time contemplating about the situation in which the poet like Robert Browning has been responding to the springtime in England, living away into Italy. It is happening to everybody. We cannot say that it is Robert Browning only who is feeling the just homesick. Everybody is emotional a lot, and so just when we are at some distance from our home, we are just remembering most of the memorable things, and we are just going to make the world know how beautiful our native place is. So, in the poem Home Thoughts from Abroad, Robert Browning is just giving vent to his feeling about the change in spring in England and the influence that this change has cast on his thought. And we can say that we are just very much part of nature, and we live with nature, and we start thinking with nature. Nature helps us think in a particular direction. So our whole personality is the reflection of our thought that we develop around the natural surrounding in which we are living. Now we come to the analysis of this poem, and we find that the very stanza itself is a kind of lamentation. That poet starts from an interjection, oh, that he feels sorry to be in England. How nice it is to be in England this time now that April's there. So he remembers April of England. And when he remembers April of England, he is sorry to remember, because to be in England this time is so significant. And whoever wakes in England sees some morning unaware that there is just a very different kind of morning. When we wake up in England and we have seen the morning of April of England, you find, oh, it is so many natural things which are to be observed for our pleasure. That the Lewis boughs and the brushwood shape round the elm tree bowl are in tiny leaf, while the chopping sings on the orchard bough in England now. So he remembers that there are singing birds, there are different kinds of shrubs which are in health and particularly blooming. There are tiny leaves, and these are all the changes into the nature that you find in the morning of April of England. And because this time physically the poet is far away to observe all these kind of things, so he feels sorry. So the interjection, oh, and to be in England, that he wishes to be in England this time, that he isn't. And especially when it is April, the springtime in England, it is so many things which just can give you lots of pleasure that poet is missing this time. So we have the words like bough, meaning branch, brushwood, thicket, Shif Bandu, Chafin Songbird. So, what do you find in the very first stanza? We find that it is much more descriptive, and it describes a springtime scene in England countryside where there are birds, singing birds and flowers blooming. So this is a kind of allusion of rural England. And almost in all corners of the world, in rural side, we find that there are so many natural changes taking place, especially in spring. So, it is all right that geographically there are different kinds of birds found in different parts of the world. There are different kinds of trees and plants which are found in different parts of the world. So no doubt, natural environment is geographically conditioned. So there may be different types of plants and trees. There may be different kinds of singing birds, but they are present in every nook and corner of the world. And especially we find that with the arrival of spring, they are very much visible, as Robert Browning is remembering this time, living in England, that these are the things. So some things are best appreciated from abroad. And we may enjoy wherever you live, because every place has its own geographical surrounding to give you pleasure. But the point is that we cannot associate ourselves with all the situations equally or in equal emotional mindset. So emotionally we are attached to our native place most, because here our just psychology is built up. Here our way of response is built up, where we have learned lots of things from the natural world. Here we have treated nature as our parents. So it is true that natural world of all the places of the world are equally enjoyable, but the sense of enjoyment differs from place to place, because a particular person is most inclined to the natural world of the place where he was born. So here Robert Browning is fond of those natural scenes and settings which are very much now apparent in England due to a spring. And so he is not here able to see everything. So some emotions are felt more acutely away from home. It is what our emotion is for home and native land, native place, and a native natural world. So we love, and the poet also loves his home country. And the poet also describes the nature of England, where he has been living, spending his childhood, and where his just a maturity has taken place as a person. So he describes the lowest boughs in the brushwood shape and everything, all the singing birds. And so it is all analytical poem, we can say that he is analyzing details what just he found there in England. Now we know that there is just another kind of thing that we should notice. And after April, when May follows, and the white-throated bills and all the swallows, hark, where my blossom pure green the haze, leans to the fields and scatters on the clover, blossoms and dewdrops at the bane's spray is. That is the white thrush. He sings each song twice over. Now we find that after April, May follows, and so it is the climax of springtime we find. And so we find that there are white throats, there are just many sorts of blossomed pear tree in the haze, and we can also say that they are leaning to the fields and scattering on the clover. So we also find that there are dewdrops which are very much spread in the fields, and there are thrushes, singing birds, and everything. So what do you find here? We find here that the poet has just gone to each minute description of the thing that the poet is imagining this time, living away from England. So just it is just a very much picturing of the just situation that is revealed by the poet, and the poet feels that he just wants to be there, and just he wants to observe all these kind of things because they are very close to his mind and heart. So he loves all these things. He loves England because it is his native country. We too love our country, and everybody has so same kind of relation, emotional relation with the native place and with the native natural world. No matter what, from the outsider's point of view, we can say that those natural places are of least significance, but we can say we, the insiders, who have been living there through the years, realize the most. And it is why wherever we live, just these images are very much captured in memories, are very much reflected into our into our mind through third eyes. So we definitely have been imprinted of all those kind of beautiful things which have been essentially related with English natural world and so on. So here white-throat is a type of sparrow, and we find that okay, a bird has different types of origin, and they have been geographically set to one particular position. So swallows is eating up, and hark is once again a kind of interjection that we find that poet is inviting us to listen all these kind of things, and he is saying to listen what the poet is narrating to us. And so there should be a very good communication, a kind of dialogue is made to the reader, and he is speaking to the reader, so it is just in dialogue form. It is why just some interjections have been used, that he is just pouring his emotional feeling on the listeners, on the readers. And so it is a kind of connection that he tries to make to the reader using these kind of interjections and pause and some other devices. So here is next word, that is hedge, side step, and a scatter, we can say a spread out, clover, a type of plant. So what do you find? That these are the different kinds of plants like clover, different kinds of birds like white-throat, which are especially found in England during spring. And here too in India we find cuckoo during spring into the garden full with mango, other fruits. And there too we are enjoying, imitating the sounds and so on. And so it is next word, that is blossom, efflorescence, spray, nebulizer. So these are the proper words that we have collected for our just convenience, and we think that this kind of thing can help us a lot to understand very much the just saying of the poet. So he's dreaming of, he's imagining the change from April to May in England. Yes, definitely we find that nature changes itself with season and weather. We find that nature is just responding to the just weather most. That it is the best example of adaptation. There are so many just plants which are not observed into other way, but we can say that they are just coming out into just a spring. There are so many birds which are not found in rainy season, but they come out into a spring. So it may be due to all geographical adaptation process, but there are changes taking place just round the year into the natural surroundings. So he longs to see the white-throat bills and all the swallows. So white-throats are building different kinds of nests, and they are just eating off, and they look very nice. And the poet wishes, longs to see all these kind of things. So birds in England are more significant to him. Naturally, it is more significant to us also to see the birds and plants of our native place. So he describes the blossomed spear tree in the hedge, and the way it lanes to the field and scatters in the clover. This is a very just beautiful and natural description that the poet has made, and this kind of scene is also just observed into Indian society too. But okay, the plants are different, the birds are different. We can say that they are different for geographical region, but they are found, and just a change takes place in a spring also in India, and we like it, observe, and we enjoy it most also. So they're part of the speaker's memories. The wise thrust, the songbirds sang his song twice over. So this is what different sorts of experiences that the poet has already gathered and kept in his memory are just expressed to us, that we people should listen. We people should just actually measure the depth of feeling and attachment that he has for his native place. Yes, we can understand his great feeling for the natural world in England, and just he's inviting us, he's catching our attention to listen, that he tries to just say to us. So, lest you should think he never could recapture the fast, fine, careless rapture, and though the fields look rough with hoary dew, all will be gay when moontide wakes anew. The buttercups, the little children's dower, far brighter than this gaudy melon flower. So for most of the people, they are not going to just give any sort of rapture. We can say that just it is of just no importance for us to see the morning of England, because we Indians have different perspective to see the nature. So our perspective changes. But to the poet, the field is just this time in the morning rough with just a hoary dew, but when moontide wakes up, everything is gayous, everything is full with pleasure and so on. So we enjoy seeing all these changes in moontide. Okay, so and once again we have the buttercups, and he is making that here too in Italy. He is finding gaudy melon flower, but no. It doesn't have as much brightness as he finds in all these kind of natural things in England. So it is just a self-centric view that the poet is making. And it is all the natural response that the poet has for his native place, isn't it? We too have just been very much fond of our natural surroundings. And we think that, okay, that our natural environment is simply the best. And we just continue to say that, okay, we cannot find this kind of environment elsewhere in other part of the world. So it is all just the personal feeling. It is why we can say that this is a romantic poem written by the poet, and he is personally feeling the same kind of experience. And every romantic poet has his own personal attachment to some place, to some theory, and to some vision, and so on. So we find that here is rapture, ecstasy, buttercup, a flower. Once again, different type of flower is coming. Jover, injo, hoary, rusty, gaudy, galis. So we find that once again the name of flower is changed, name of bird is changed, or we can say there are different types of flowers that he are just observing and thinking and imagining, living in Italy, and so he had just mentioned everything. So even The parts of England look ugly or rough with horny dew. Yes, but they are still beautiful when the moon chime comes around and the little buttercups becomes visible. So we find that it is just very much enjoyable to be into moonshine in England, because you find that the rough with just a hoary dew morning is changed now. It is full with gay and delight and rapture. So the speaker just looks at a flower which had blossomed in the springtime. And the springtime in England was actually more beautiful. Now pear tree is blooming, and it is scattering just blossoms, and dewdrops on the clover in the nearby fields are some of the attractions that the poet is remembering living in Italy. And so we can say that it is a very, very nice description that the poet has made about the place where he is not physically present this time, but he misses it a lot. So he is remembering romantically. Thank you.